And we're up to the fourth Aliya. I'm going to try and go a little bit quicker because I know nobody has patience for any of this. So fourth Aliya for Lech Lecha. And now it came to pass in the days of Raphael, the king of Sinar, Arioch, the king of Eleasar, and Cheldoromar, the king of Elam, and Tidal, the king of Goyim. Now, these names are just dropped into the story, but we do know a little bit about some of these because we know that Parshas Noach listed a lot of nations, 70 nations. So we do know that there's like and we do know there's already nations mentioned in Canaan, and we know that there's Egypt. And so it's not like the earth is empty, okay? So, and here we go. We're going to have 4 kings versus 5 kings, and they waged war with Ber, the king of Sodom, and Birsha, the king of Gomorrah, Shinab, the king of Admah, Shemibar, the king of Zibeon, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. Now, we just mentioned Zoar before, and now we're going to mention this fight. So here, what are they fighting about? Torah doesn't mention it. Maybe and Rashi does give context to these names. He's one of the most famous, if not one of the most famous commentators that millions upon millions of Jews read, along with Onkelos, but then they go to Rashi if they're not reading Onkelos. And Rashi lived in the Middle Ages in the 1100s, and the middle of France and what is now France, Germany. Anyhow, he's an extremely famous person, even in the non-Jewish world. So he gives commentary on this and almost the entire Chumash, all 5 books, I believe all 5 books, and he explains these names. But again, this is more of a commentary taken from us. If you're to read this for the first time, you just coming across these names, you see there's 4 kings versus 5 kings. And they joined to the valley of Siddim, which is the Dead Sea. Now, was this before God overturned it? And because remember, we said the Lot went there because it was so beautiful. So what was the Dead Sea area like? What was its topography? What was the ground like? Was it fertile? Because Sodom wasn't gone. If he saw the Dead Sea as we see the Dead Sea, he wouldn't have gone there potentially. And for 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, and for 13 years they rebelled. So we see that there is some. And in the 14th year, Kedorlaomer came, and the kings who were with him, they smote the Rephaim and the Ashtaroth, Canarim, and in the Zuzim and Ham, and the Emim and Sheva Kiriathaim. Now, I don't know where these places are, but I'm assuming I would have to guess that they're all in the Dead Sea area, in the Jordan Valley area, near Jericho might be in this area. So there's a fight going on. Again, we're getting a context for how long it is. And the Horites in the mountain of Seir unto the plain of Paran, which is alongside the desert. Now Seir was controlled by the Horites, and later it's going to be the place of Esau, I believe. And they returned and came to Ain Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and they smote the entire field of the Amalekites and also the Amorites who dwell in Hazizon Tamar. This is very, very strange because we know that the Amalekites built themselves up again, and Amorites are also, by the time the Hebrews were wandering the desert, they came across Amalekites and they came across the Amorites. So I guess they didn't kill all of them, or I'm not exactly sure. Again, the Torah is leaving like a lot. I mean, again, it's not a history book, but it's mentioning things that potentially archaeologists and historians could look into to see if it's even like, could they, find these battles? Could they find the remnants of these battles? Could they find these locations? And we do have a kind of idea where Ain Mishpat is, and Kadesh, and Seir, and we know where some of these places are. And the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zibeon, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar, came forth, and they engaged them in the battle in the valley of Siddim, with Kedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and Tidal, the king of Goyim. So Tidal, as in like the company, the thing that cleans your clothes, has kind of tide, right? Or the tidal has turned. The tide has turned, maybe. And Kedorlaomer is wait, I'm blanking. Is Nimrod, I believe. I believe it's Nimrod. which could be Hammurabi, from history. 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was composed of many clay pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they fell there, and the survivors fled to a mountain. First of all, didn't they know about these clay pits since they lived in the area? So how could they just fall into them without knowing about them? So maybe these are like bogs that like were sometimes dry and sometimes not dry. So I'm not exactly 100% sure what's going on here, but clearly that these clay pits do exist, and we're actually full of phosphorus and asphalt and a lot of other minerals that we've been mining for over 100 years here in Eretz Israel. And they took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, all their food, and they departed. Okay. And they took Lot and his possessions, the son of Avram's brother, and they departed, and he was living in Sodom. We know that from before. And the fugitive came and he told Avram the Hebrew, and he was living in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite. So Mamre, the plain of Mamre is an actual person, but it's also a location. And he's the brother of Eshcol and his brother Anar, who were Abram's confederates. So Abram had already made some sort of working relationships with the locals in the Hebron area, and we now know that the plain of Mamre, which was mentioned from before, was an actual person who was of the Amorite people. Now the Amorite people were just smote, so obviously the Amorites just didn't live in one location; they also lived in Canaan. And Eshcol is also a name of a valley, Eshcol Valley, right? So we're going to learn about that later when the spies come, that there's a place called Eshcol, and Eshcol means like a cluster of grapes. But this person's also called Eshcol. And the brother of Anar, who were Abram's confederates. Okay, we're almost have to go forward. And Abram heard that his kinsmen had been taken captive, and he armed his trained men, those who were born in his house, 318, and he pursued them until Dan. Dan is way up in the north. Like, if this is Tal Dan, this is way far north. And so we're talking, I don't know, maybe 100 kilometers, or maybe more of distance. And he divided himself again now 318. So when it says the man, later we're gonna the Midrashim will say that it was Abraham's servant, whose name I'm blanking on right now. Oh my gosh, we'll learn about it later. Okay, we'll get to it. I'm sorry, I just forgot right now. And this is what he's going to do. So he took his 318 and he pursued them until Dan, and he divided himself against them at night, he and his servants, and he smote them, and he pursued them to Harbobah, which is to the left of Damascus. So now he's in Syria, so he's even really far north. And he restored all the possessions, and also Lot his brother and his possessions restored, and also the women and the people. He restored them all the way back to Sodom, apparently. All right, and the king of Sodom came out toward him, and after his return, and from smiting Heladolamar, and the kings who were with him, to the valley of Shaveh, which is in the valley of the king. And Melchizedek, the king of Shalem, which is Jerusalem. So there's a lot going on here. Brought out bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God, the Le'el Elyon. So Melchizedek is, according to the Meforshim Shem, to the commentators, is Noach's son Shem. So why not just call him that? Why does it have to call him Melchizedek? And he blessed him, and he said, "Blessed be Avram to the Most High God, who possesses heaven and earth. Le'el Elyon koneh shemayim va'aretz." And he blessed to the Most High God, and blessed be the Most High God, who has delivered your adversaries into your hand, and he gave him a tithe from all. So here we have this idea of giving Meiser, a tenth. The Meisers, this is establishing this from a very early source, not connected to Judaism, not connected to the Hebrew nation. This is Melchizedek. Okay, so Melchizedek is if he's Shem, then he is from the Hebrew nation, because he's a Semite like we are, and like the Arabs are. I just need to point that out. And actually, all the people in the story that we're reading are all like from the same Shem. There's three brothers from 3 sons, right? There's Shem, Ham, and Yefet. So Yefet wasn't in Eretz Israel. He was in I guess, Greece and Europe, and the islands around Greece. And Ham is in northern Africa, so maybe Ham is like part of the Egyptians. So who are we fighting? And if this fight is all the people who are from the Shem family tree of the three brothers and of the three sons of Noah, then this is literally a civil war. And even if we're fighting against, even if some of these nations and some of these people that we just mentioned are from the Ham or Canaan or Ham, which would be one of the sons of Noah, then that's still a civil war. So no matter what, whoever you're fighting in this world, whoever you think you're angry against, according to the Torah, you're really angry at yourself, and you're really angry at a close relative, maybe genetically not so close, maybe not like immediate, but we do know that within even immediate families, there's murders going on. You just open up the newspaper, people are murdering their brothers and sisters every day. It's happening here in Israel, not just in Israel, but everywhere in the world. There's somebody killing somebody, right? There's murder like in every single location. So what's going on? Like, what is this? What are why? The Torah, I'd have to say in Bereshit addresses it, but I'd have to go all the way back to those verses. But now we're just ending the fourth Aliya. But bottom line is, when people say, there's people are people, so why should it be? So I guess why should it be? It doesn't have to be why. It just right now is, we can't just say Ein Malaso. Like Ein Malaso is not an acceptable answer. All right. Sorry, too much preaching. Going on to the fifth Aliya. So finishing the fourth Aliya. See you soon.